Greetings, brothers. Today we're going to be talking about a hot take that is Las Fusil Eliminators. They seem to be appearing in every single list pretty much since this recent balance data slate. So let's find out why. So just why are Las Fusil Eliminators in every list? Since Armor of Contempt came out and the Eliminators obviously get a +1 to their cover, save while in cover because of their camo cloaks, you're basically on a 1-up save and you're ignoring 1 AP. So you're essentially kind of on a 0-up save, so even if you're hit on -2, these guys are saving on 2s. Concealed positions is going to let you basically start in cover wherever you want in the map, where you're going to get some good firing arcs. And those Las Fusils are 36 inches. They're essentially a 36-inch Thunderhammer. In fact, they're better than a Thunderhammer because Thunderhammer's got changed from -3 to -2, and you've got the 2-up ballistic skill. So these guys are going to be hitting pretty reliably, potentially doing a lot of damage. You're going to need huge AP to shift them, obviously, because, you know, AP -3, they're saving on 3-ups. It's pretty darn good. They also do have a potential of a move, shoot, move. So you could either be behind terrain, you could move out, you could shoot 2 Las Eliminators, then you could move back in if you're going to use the Instigator bolt rifle and the Sergeant, as that potentially gives you this covering fire rule. I've already said that they're basically range 36 Thunderhammers. You could include 9 in your list for 225 points. And I guess because they come in the heavy support slot, they're really not competing with so much other stuff that usually competes for Blood Angels. You know, all of our good stuff typically is in the elite slot. So these are guys that are going to come into the heavy support slot. You're going to be able to run 3 squads of them, and potentially that's only going to cost you 225 points. So here's a slide you might be familiar with if you've seen me use these slides before, and this is a slide that compares like the toughness, the wounds, and the armor of models against some different weapon types, and we just see how many hits is going to be required to kill all the models in the unit. So for a squad of Eradicators, obviously they have 9 wounds, the squad of Eliminators have 6 wounds. Now, I've got Devastators and Relic Contemptor on here as well as sort of a baseline, but basically I'm comparing the Eradicators against the Eliminators, because I think Eradicators have been very staple in 9th edition. Obviously the total obliteration rule that lets them fire twice has been very good. They've got better with Armor of Contempt. The only problem I suppose with Eradicators is they're 24 inches with those melta guns. Obviously the multi-meltas have an additional -1, but 24 inches can potentially mean turns of not shooting. You've got no concealed position, so you've got to move into position, and then worse weapon skill as well. But let's have a look, because Eradicators are toughness 5. So you would think toughness 5 is pretty strong, right? And so if you look at the numbers between these two, so bolt rifles, and this is basing on Eliminators being in cover. So the Eliminators are in cover, and obviously both models have Armor of Contempt. So Eradicators are a little bit more survivable against the bolt rifles, 12%. Against like the Plague Burst Mortar Cannon at -2, the Eliminators in cover are going to be basically 40% more survivable than the Eradicators, bearing in mind I think you're going to be able to be in cover more just because you can start in cover, and obviously Eliminators move faster than the Eradicators as well. It's 1 inch, it's not huge, but it's worth mentioning. Against like a Gauze Reaper, which is also -2, you're seeing the Eliminators are 50% more survivable. Against Plasma Exterminators, which is basically like your plasmas from your Inceptors, you can see that the Eradicators are slightly more survivable here, and that's due to their additional point of toughness. And then if we take like the plasma on the Redemptor Dreadnought, we're shooting it on high power, so basically each shot would kill an Eradicator, but it doesn't matter. The Eliminators, the additional bonus they're getting from both being in cover and Armor of Contempt is making their save very reliable. Even on -4, they're still on a 4-up save. So these guys are 33% more survivable into the high power macro plasma cannons. So if we want to talk about point for point survivability, then these guys are actually smashing it. They are just 55% of the points cost of a squad of Eradicators. So the fact that they're already ahead, 50%, 40%, 30% in some of these numbers is just insane. You're talking about, in this one, they're almost like over 100% more survivable than Eradicators. Even these ones, I guess, get pulled back. So Eliminators, assuming you can start them in cover, which I really think you should be able to do, and assuming that they can stay in cover, these guys are going to be monsters. Yes, there's maybe some things that can ignore when they're shooting, they can ignore cover, so that might be their like Achilles heel, but you know, it's Warhammer. Everything has an Achilles heel in some way or form. So this was a video request, and it was specifically asking about Death Guard in the Blightlord Terminators, the Bloat Drones, and the Mythic Blight Haulers. I've thrown Mortarion in there as well because sometimes he can be a problem for Blood Angels. So if we're going to shoot a squad of Lasfuse Eliminators against these different targets, this is how much damage it would be potentially do. If we're going to shoot a squad of Eradicators with Melt Rifles using Total Obliteration, this is how much damage they would do. Now if you divide that down and work out damage per point, then you can see that damage per 100 points, the Eradicators are 10% more damaging than the Eliminators. But when you look at the survivability of the Eliminators, then it kind of to me feels a little bit like a no-brainer. Like, yes, the Eradicators do a tiny bit more damage, but Eliminators are crazy more survivable. You would have more of them. That potentially gives you more footprints on the map, lets you hold more objectives, lets you do more things like engage in all fronts or whatever, or more actions. So these calculations obviously include Armor of Contempt. It does leave out any potential bonuses from Devastator Doctrine, but typically Devastator Doctrine wasn't going to really hit or affect anything in here because both weapons have reasonably decent AP. So it does appear that if the Eliminators are in cover, they aren't bad against a bunch of targets. Obviously, if they ever end up in melee, they'd be a lot weaker, but I've seen like multiple Blood Angels lists now looking at running 2 or 3 squads of them. If you are running 3 squads for 225 points, that is 9 strength 8 minus 3 damage. So that's, you know, it's like 9 Thunderhammers at 36-inch range. You're taking 6.6 wounds off a Bloat Drone, or you're killing a Terminator and a half per turn. So based on that, it makes me feel like you really need to pick your targets. Or Blightlord Terminators are just damn crazy survivable. We know Mortarion can be crazy survivable as well. But the chip damage that you can potentially come out from these guys into, like, for example, like Bloat Drones, 225 points, and if they got 5 rounds of shooting, you know, they're killing 3 Bloat Drones. Well, 3 Bloat Drones is like 500 points. Maybe not quite 500. They changed the point cost recently. I think they're 145 now. So these guys can do double their damage in terms of points, or double their points cost over the course of the game into something like Death Guard. And Death Guard are -1 damage. So these guys will do even more damage if you're not into -1 damage enemies. And comparing the survivability of the Eradicators, you know, I've been running Eradicators now. I ran them at a GT recently, and their survivability was an issue for me. So finding 15 more points to run 2 squads of Lasfuse Eliminators over that 1 squad of Eradicators, and especially having that longer range as well, which I think is a big deal. 12 inches more with concealed positions, meaning that, you know, sometimes turn 1, you're just running Eradicators from your deployment zone into cover. And if you don't go first, it's not a great thing to have to do. So potentially the Eliminators they can sort of remove that pain point. I think they're looking pretty decent. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of Lasfuse Eliminators pop up. So I figured to try and get even more of a fuller picture on this, guys, I needed to pick a few other models that Blood Angels tend to have problems fighting into. And a big shout out to Dirty Wizard for this video suggestion, and a big thanks to all my channel members and patrons as well. I know there hasn't been as much content recently with COVID and now some family issues, and I've been to the emergency room more times in the last couple of months with the kids than I've been to in the last 10 years. So I'm struggling a little bit, but I'm hoping to get back to speed soon. And I hope you guys enjoyed the live games we've had coming out in the channel in the last few weeks. More content will come as always. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. I am also hoping to have my Battle Ready Sanguinary Guard video ready for painting in the next few weeks too. So keep an eye on the channel for that. Anyway, so what am I struggling with when I'm playing Blood Angels? Well, recently I was at the top table. Yes, make fun of me if you want, but I lost to a double Redemptor list. So Redemptor Dreadnoughts, I guess, are a problem. I did actually try and shoot them with my Eradicators and didn't kill them, or didn't kill one of them. So Redemptor Dreadnoughts, War Dog Carnivores. I've been playing Chaos Knights a few times. They are notoriously difficult to shift, those damn Carnivores, and they're OBSEC. They're just a nightmare. I've previously, we don't see Custos too much in the meta right now, but I've always had so many problems with Telemon Dreadnoughts. The ability to turn off your rerolls, and also the fact that, like, Blood Angels, if you're not running Power Fists on Sanguinary Guard, which I'm not, it can be very difficult to do damage to Telemon Dreadnoughts with their -1 damage, and their Feel No Pain, and their Toughness 8. So let's put them on. And then Terminators, we're seeing a bit of a resurgence with Terminators, not necessarily with Storm Shields anymore, just Terminators with Lightning Claws or Relic Terminators with a Stormbolt or a Lightning Claw. So how do Eliminators and Eradicators do into all these things? And once again, I've worked out damage per 100 points. And again, Eradicators are better in terms of raw damage. In some situations, it's pretty low, 5%, 11%. Some situations, it's quite a bit higher, 38%. 48% into those Terminators, and you've got Telemons and the Carnivores they're doing well against, and then the Redemptors not so much. So really it just comes down to target prioritization and the additional 12 inches of range, and then the cover and the points cost. And I think the cover and the points cost is looking so attractive along with the 12 inches of range. If you think about it, if there's ever a single turn those Eradicators aren't in range, if your Eliminators are in range in all game, then they're probably out damaging the Eradicators. And I've lost count the amount of times that like all 3 Eradicators are not in range because, 24 inches just isn't that long a range. Or you have to advance the Eradicators and then it's more difficult to hit and essentially you get less shots. So there's a few factors here that really make the Las-Fusel Eliminators look attractive. So please leave me a comment down below on what you think of Las-Fusel Eliminators. If you're running them, please let us know how much success you're having, and then we can all go down in the comments and we can see. And maybe if anyone wins a GT with a bunch of Las-Fusel Eliminators, we'll try and cover that on the channel as well. As always, thank you so much for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did get some value out of today's video, I'd love it if you hit that red subscribe button and also click the bell so anytime I upload new content, you'll be notified on your mobile device. I'll be back next week for another Tactics installment. Until next time, brothers, by the blood are we made strong. Peace.